in the sock. I don't know if you knew that. They were again. I mean, the ambulance got there in 12 minutes, which is
because they
that's
were
pretty
certainly
fast.
on site throughout at least a portion of the body cam footage there. I could see the ambulance in the background. So.
That's fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I don't even know where. Do you know where in the city they were?
Yeah, Jefferson Avenue.
Jefferson. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, the whole situation, Kevin and I talked about at length yesterday. There was just a lot of things in there that looked bad. I did see that I think the Locust Club actually put out a statement saying that the officers' actions were in line with what their training is.
Yeah, I think that I don't think there's any dispute about that.
Yeah, so my thing is if that's by the book, if that's the standards that are in place right now, we should definitely be evaluating those standards a little bit, because I tell you what, if you watch the video, is pretty scary. It is definitely concerning to me.
Yeah, well, let's explore this a little bit if you want after the. I don't want to take your show over, but after the break, let's explore that how to deal with these situations.
Yeah, no, absolutely, we definitely will, guys. You are listening to Radio Free New York. We're gonna take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Escape from the everyday to a getaway at Woodcliff Hotel and Spa. Woodcliff features elegantly appointed accommodations, creative cuisine, themed suites, full-service spa Elan, and is Rochester's best venue for outdoor wedding receptions overlooking the city skyline. Woodcliff Hotel and Spa, where the experience is extraordinary. Located in Fairport, call 585-381-4000 or visit woodcliffhotelspa.com.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. I'm going to apologize to the people on the live stream. I must not have pressed the button hard enough to kick it off at the beginning of the show, so you guys probably lost the first I don't know, 12 or 13 minutes of the show.
We need an
Um,
investigation.
Yep. We're gonna need it was all censored. That's what it was. No, you guys will just have to hop on the WYSL podcast where the full version is, and you'll be able to catch the first, like I said, 10 or 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
So we're
but
talking
definitely
about
want.
mental health going into the break there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because that's what the salient issue is here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, and I agree. So for those of you joining the show here, we're talking about just more information that's come out about Daniel Prude's death. And yesterday I talked in length about my experience as an EMT, my kind of gut reactions to the body cam footage that I saw. But you're right. We didn't talk about maybe how we should be approaching mental health issues specifically.
Well,
Um,
there's a nuanced approach to this, and it's not as simple as just a bunch of bad cops, being pigheaded and being idiots. I think that you can probably say the mistakes have been made. I think you can put me in the skeptical column about whether a homicide actually occurred here. Because there's elements of that crime that I don't see them being present. But here's the thing. I mean, we are once again in this emotional posture where we're hating the cops because the cops are bad and the cops don't care and the cops are racist and blah, blah, blah. Here's what the problem is. The problem is Daniel Prude's situation is not a clear, unmurky situation at all. If you'd like to know, if you're really interested in this and you really want to pursue this, we have an associate of our flagship station, Paloma Capana, who is a experienced attorney and who has won litigation against Governor Andrew Cuomo, which I think I give her a tip of the hat for that. She's a Second Amendment expert, but she also has quite a background in mental health law. And if you go to our Second Amendment show for this week, if you go to WYSL1040.com, Andrew just mentioned podcasts, go to the podcast page at WYSL1040.com, pull up the most recent Second Amendment show. There is a detailed step-by-step history of the events leading up to Daniel Prude's death in March, including why he was in Rochester because he's a Chicago resident and what happened in great detail. To distill this down, Andrew, because I don't want to take up the whole show with this, basically, historically, we used to institutionalize people who are in the boat that Daniel Prude was in. They used to be in mental health institutions where they had 24-hour-a-day supervision. That was deemed in the 1960s and 1970s inhumane and violative of human rights and civil rights. So these people were released in the general population to be watched over by kind of a loose network of support organizations and presumed family. The experience has been at best mixed with that practice. And kind of the worst case scenario appears to be represented or exemplified by Daniel Prude's situation. The upshot of this whole thing is that on top of all of the hyper emotional invective which is being leveled at police these days, and much of it completely undeserved and much of it fabricated for political reasons, now on top of that we're layering a requirement that police be mental health professionals, which they are not, nor are they EMTs. So, what their job is, what police are there to do, is to maintain law and order, to protect lives and property, and to enforce the law, period. And all of a sudden, now we're expecting a lot of these people in very, very difficult times. So that's a distillation of where we are with the Daniel Prude situation, I think.
Yeah, and I think that aligns pretty well because in the reality of the situation, and we mentioned this like just before going to break, that I believe it was the Locust Club, put out a statement after this footage came out saying that those officers followed protocol. They followed what they were taught to do as the appropriate way, call it, quote, by the book. Um, so we need to sit here as I believe concerned citizens who watch this, and I know I was pretty surprised at some of the stuff I saw.
Well, it doesn't
And
look
we
good.
should be talking about the actual process, the actual standards that the officers are taught to follow. And I think you're right. And in fact, we've got Nick here in the comments who says, "I was an EMT for 25 years. I never felt that I was adequately trained to handle mental health calls. How about you?"
Right.
And that's like a perfect example of, yeah, the police are here on scene and they get like first responder training, which is very, I don't want to call it basic first aid because it goes beyond basic first aid, but it's not in depth. It's not all encompassing. And then you've got EMTs and maybe a paramedic on the scene at some point throughout this, whose training is very much keep a patient together, keep them alive long enough to get them to a hospital where there's going to be real care.
Right. A couple of quick points here on that. First of all, much has been made of the fact that the officers made Daniel Prude lie down. Well, there was a reason for that. And that was, if he's lying down, if his head is down on the pavement, he's not trying to bash his brains out. And the officers were aware of the fact that there were two, basically what amounted to suicide attempts by Daniel Prude prior to this incident, because that was what was reported by the family. One was he tried to run in front of a train, apparently, because there are train tracks behind the Prude house. And then he tried to throw himself down steps at the Prude house head first. So what they're trying to do is, if his head is immobilized on the pavement, he can't give himself a concussion or kill himself. So that's a consideration. Now, unfortunately, the mask might have concealed the fact, the spit sock may have concealed the fact that he had thrown up in the mask and he was having trouble breathing. I don't know. I mean, again, this is a matter of fact to be determined by detailed investigation, which is going to be forthcoming. Is that homicide? I don't think that's homicide.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I think, somebody more qualified than I is gonna determine that.
Or with more information than us.
Yeah. Oh, certainly with more information, with way better background, with more evidence, for sure. I think though that any of us looking at this situation can't help but be concerned and worried as we look at that. And me personally, I do question the standards that are in place. And if the officers are following those standards, I like I think that we need to address those standards. I think we need to look at the standards and go, hey, maybe we should evaluate this. Maybe we should make some changes. Maybe there should be somebody on call for a mental health arrest or a mental hygiene arrest.
There you go. There may be a requirement going forward here that we have mental health professionals on staff who ride along with the police and minister to cases like this.
Yeah.
The problem then becomes, though, I mean, if they're just on call and they're not a standing member of the force, what does that do to response times? Because
that could very well be an issue. But I think, the way, because I used to volunteer for an ambulance, and we would have paramedics that kind of rode in their own vehicles. We didn't have a lot of paramedics. We would maybe have like one or two available at any given time, and we might be running 3 or 4 ambulances. So when a call came up that was important and necessary, and usually a paramedic, they can just do things that EMTs can't. They have access to drugs that they can give the patient to keep them and sustain them longer on their ride to the hospital. They can do intubations. They can do just more things. So when we got to a call where we realized, like, oh crap, we need a paramedic, we'd pick up, and the paramedic was kind of like already there, ready to go on call while we were, sustaining that life, keeping them safe, kind of keeping them as stable as we could. And then there were other times that the paramedic was just there on the rig with us as a part of just like, regular rotation. So this is something that I think either the police departments could look at, maybe the ambulance companies can look at. City of Rochester is kind of interesting because they have like contracted agencies, whereas some of the suburbs have like volunteer agencies. So, I'm not saying that there's a specific perfect answer, but I think we could all look at this situation and go, if this is the standard we're following, maybe we should reevaluate this. Maybe we should look at this as this worked for a time, and now we're realizing we can do something better as a community, as society. Mental health issues have never been so prevalent as they are today. It's certainly not as in your face as they are today. And I think it's a good idea for us to look at this situation and go, you know what? Maybe this is an issue that we should say, yeah, let's get some mental health professionals involved in creating a specific protocol that will help in maybe not this specific instance, but in general instances. And then have some sort of on-call system, something like that, where somebody could even dial in, maybe over the phone. We have video calls now are really easy. We have the technology to kind of leverage this stuff. I think we should take advantage of it to try to prevent something like this happening again. Because one thing that I sometimes think what happens in these instances is it becomes a police versus somebody, which is not what we should be looking at in this instance. We should be looking at the system, how it's broken, and how we can make it better, because people aren't supposed to die in police custody. It's not supposed to happen. Whether they're a good person, a bad person, a sick person, an injured person, we're not supposed to be dying in police custody. So let's find those issues, let's fix the system, let's make a better process. Guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
It's Radio Free New York.
Take two friends to the polls with you. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll be looking at some increasing clouds, temps staying in the 60s on Thursday. Mostly cloudy. A weak front will come through, maybe a brief shower, but most of the day rain-free. Noticeably cooler, staying in the low 70s. Friday, back to some sunshine, but a cool breeze off the lake. Temperatures on Friday only in the 60s and low 70s. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Turn off the oven and put away the pots and pans.
This is Fran.
And Jim.
Grab and Go Meals and Colby's Fresh Baked Goods are flying out the door.
Homestyle meals for just $6.99, ready to heat and eat at home.
Colby's famous catering dishes like chicken and biscuits with veggies,
Barbecue ribs with bacon, mac and cheese,
Marcella beef tips with mashed potatoes,
vegetarian lasagna,
and 12 more meals to choose from.
Pick up a Colby's pie for dessert or cookies, cakes, and pastries for that special someone.
Curbside pickup and online ordering available.
Colby's, minutes from everywhere. Call today for dinner tonight, 533-3525.
7272 West Henrietta Road, exit 11 at I-390 in Rush.
Geneseo Hardware and Rental has a new expanded location on Route 28, east of the village of Geneseo. Over 6,000 square feet with a large selection of plumbing, electrical, home and garden, and much more. Geneseo Hardware offers Valspar paint, a wide selection of rental items, plus screen and window repair. Get personalized service at the new, bigger location. Geneseo Hardware and Rental, Route 28 next to Wegmans Plaza. Visit geneseo-rental.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Pat Brophy from UR Medicine, Golisano Children's Hospital. When your favorite team wins, it's because they work together. When a medical team saves a life, it's because they put all their skills together. That's why Golisano Children's Hospital is so dedicated to creating a healthy community. It will give kids in the region access to advanced care, help us do groundbreaking research, and provide top-notch training to the next generation of pediatricians. You can help us do this, so please give to Golisano Children's Hospital.
Hi, I'm Nicolina Frisk, Senior Media Major at Roberts Wesleyan College. NCAA Division II is a collection of more than 300 colleges and universities whose athletics programs foster a balanced and inclusive approach in which student-athletes learn and develop through their desired academic pursuits in service to their communities, in athletics competition, and earn athletic scholarships for their skills and expertise. I'm Nicolina Frisk. I chose D2 at Roberts Wesleyan College, and I encourage you to do the same. For all your Redhawks information, visit robertsredhawks.com. Roberts Wesleyan, Rochester's only NCAA D2 scholarship college.
Stay in your car and let us do the work. The Avon Gasway on Route 39 features all-American Valero gasoline, full-service gas island, plus ethanol-free gas, on and off-road diesel, crystal clear kerosene, propane exchange, free tire pressure check and air. Open daily. The Avon Gasway, Route 39.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. You know, after this happened, Daniel Prude's body cam footage of his interaction with the officers, the protest started. And one of the things that has come out with the protests, and I think we've got the audio for that, is Assistant Principal Lysenko, I think is how you pronounce his name?
Steve Lysenko, ninth grade teacher and assistant principal at Spencerport High School.
Yeah, so he had a kind of an interesting reaction because he went to the protests, and it sounds like he got hit with some pepper spray.
Mm-hmm.
And this, to me, I think we're going to play the audio here in a second, but I think it's important when you listen to this to know that probably kids that go to that high school probably saw and heard this, and not the modified version that we're going to play that, you know, removes a few things. And what type of example that may or may not set for those young minds. So, Bob, do we have that audio?
I do.
Awesome.
So this is assistant principal. This has been all over social media, and maybe many of you have already heard this. A lot of bad language here, which we have toned out. But this is a role model for high schoolers. This is his model of restraint and moderation and the way to behave like an adult in front of the world. This is Stephen Lysenko, now suspended from Spencerport High School.
Anything but chant and sing all the way halfway across the bridge. At which point we met the Rochester Police Department, and guess what happened? Our peacekeepers ended up shooting pepper spray at us for singing and chanting and telling them what a shit job they were doing. They can fuck right off, America. Fuck the police. Fuck Rochester Police Department. Thank you.
I think the thank you at the end is a nice touch. But I also want to point out here, apart from the language and the attitude that he's showing, is he's lying. The police did not fire pepper spray or pepper balls at these demonstrators. That has been confirmed by all three TV stations and by the RPD itself.
So he went on this and he didn't get pepper sprayed?
No.
Really? Wow. So I did not know that going into this. I just recently was given the audio and thought that we should talk just a little bit about what we expect out of leadership, especially in schools. And now I guess we should be talking not only about what we expect in leadership in our public schools, but maybe also like should we be expecting honesty out of them? I think so.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that would be
Yeah.
nice. I think honesty would be good. Telling the kids that they shouldn't lie. I think that telling the kids that they should look. I saw footage this morning of there were demonstrations pro and con Lysenko on the campus at Spencerport yesterday. We had some conservative demonstrators demanding the dismissal of Lysenko, and we had some social justice warrior, adolescent kids who don't know any better standing around saying, "Oh no, we have to support him because," and of course they're missing the point. The argument that they're advancing is that he has First Amendment rights, rather. He has First Amendment rights, but not not when it comes to his job. I mean, you have First Amendment rights that can't be taken away by government. But I guess you could stretch it and say the Spencerport public schools are government. But all they've done is suspend him. I'm assuming with pay.
Yeah.
We also have reports, by the way, from listeners. I have not been able to confirm this, that Spencerport is making it a practice to teach critical race theory to these kids, which I think is inappropriate.
Yeah, so what I have at least here from the DNC is that they quote saying he has been one of the district's leaders in advocating for anti-racist curriculum and other actions in the spirit of the Black Lives Matter movement. So I don't know if that means he's putting together curriculum. I don't know what that means in terms of what he's doing in the classroom, in the school. It's kind of vague a little bit. But I think that the big issue here is, and I want to make this like really clear. I think that it's great that schools want to talk about equality. I think that that's something that, especially with everything that's happening in the media right now and happening on social media, I think it's important to have those discussions, but in an unbiased way. And if this guy is leading this movement in Spencerport School District, and then
Which I think it's clear that he is.
blatantly lying about what's happening on social media and going on this type of rant here, which I didn't know wasn't true, that he even wasn't pepper sprayed. I mean, that's a terrible thing. That's something that does need to be assessed, and it does need to be looked at. And, the language that he's using, I don't think the school district, well, I know they don't because, right, they pulled him and they suspended him. But that's not the language that we're expecting somebody to be using in a leadership position where they're working with like impressionable young adults.
Right. I mean, he has to, as a representative of Spencerport Central Schools, and also the taxpayers, out of respect for the taxpayers, he needs to show a far better example of behavior. I mean, that's infantile. Going out there and spraying F-bombs on public, social media, and going after the police. The police didn't do anything to him. And, promoting disrespect for law enforcement and civil unrest. That's just, as far as I'm concerned, that's not acceptable. Here's another thing that people are not talking about, and they need to consider this. There are kids, I guarantee you, in the student body at Spencerport Central Schools who have parents and relatives who are in law enforcement. And many of them,
absolutely.
Many of them, there could be examples of people who work for the Rochester Police Department. And here's a member of the Spencerport faculty spewing this kind of invective.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable. It's not the way an adult should should behave at work, especially in front of children who are impressionable and don't have the filter to decide where this guy is coming from. You want you want your kids to behave like this? I certainly don't.
Yeah, it's just it's bad on so many levels. And when you're in a position like that, you are essentially a paid role model for these students, and you're charged with being appropriate in I mean, let's face it, school is essentially upbringing of other people's children. I mean, that's literally what it is. Whether it's public school, private school, or homeschool, you're in charge of the upbringing of those children. Whether it's you homeschooling your children yourself, you paying for a private school to do that, or you paying taxes to a public school. You're paying the taxes either way, but paying the public school system to do that. So when you have people in these positions, they're in charge of the upbringing of your children and giving them the knowledge and education that they're not receiving at home to get through life. And when
Well-
you provide this type of, example, I mean, that's a powerful, terrible thing.
It's not just stylistic, too. I mean, look, first of all, I don't think politics have any place in public schools. I don't think politics belong there at all. You teach them the basics. You teach them reading, writing, arithmetic, and American history, hopefully from the most neutral standpoint possible. You don't teach them, which is, by the way, the new standard now, that America is a country that was founded on racism and slavery, which is not true. What you do is you have a nuanced, balanced approach where you tell them the most balanced version of the facts that you possibly can. You don't indoctrinate impressionable young minds and teach them to hate their country and to rebel against authority and to be propelled to tear down society. That's not the appropriate role for a high school or any teacher. Teachers are supposed to be just the facts, please. We don't want to create little angry social justice warriors going out there to spread destruction and mayhem.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that I've had teachers, in my upbringing, even in public schools, that remained very impartial and very unbiased and in the classroom setting. And then I found out after I graduated, and I've been friends with them on social media, they have very specific biases, some to the right, some to the left, that never entered the classroom. I was there to learn, I was there to be educated. There wasn't a place for politics there, and I appreciate so much that they gave me the tools to question things myself, make my own decisions, and find my own path. I think that's something that's being robbed from children in our public education system right now. Guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a break. When we come back, let's talk about why private school enrollments are up. We're talking about public education. We might as well talk about that too. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
If you're looking to market and grow your business, make new business connections, and give back to the community in a meaningful way, consider joining the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're the largest suburban chamber in Monroe County, and we offer networking, education, marketing, insurance, and advocacy. You do not need to live or work in Greece to join. Our members come from throughout the region. In short, we're better together, and together, we're moving business forward. Visit greecechamber.org or call 585-227-7272 to join today.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice, save a life, train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe, ride free, ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. Before we took break, we were just talking about Assistant Principal Lysenko, I think.
Steven Lysenko, yep.
Yep, and how he's not leading by a great example by any means with his interactions at the protest, and that just kind of reminded me of my brother, who actually works for a school. He does maintenance. He was talking about how private schools, their enrollment is up like a ton.
Oh, yeah.
They've totally maxed out. They can't take any more students. Started doing research about it. I was wondering if this was just Rochester specific or New York specific. Looks like it's actually happening all over the country.
Yeah, people are getting
right
fed
now.
up with this. They don't look. They don't want public schools or tax dollars being used as an indoctrination, assembly line for kids, to teach them not what to think, not how to think, but what to think. And a lot of it is very radical. And again, we have unconfirmed reports that Spencer Report is very invested in critical race theory. And I have a problem with that because critical race theory is based on falsehoods and lies.
Yeah, I have to admit I'm not familiar with critical race theory. It's not something I'm familiar with. But I will say what's very interesting is some of this definitely has to do with indoctrination and people wanting specific choice and control over their children's education. But a lot of this has to do with the government's response to COVID and what's happening in public schools due to COVID, and parents saying, yeah, I feel that my kids are not only going to get a better education in private schools, which is kind of like the obvious answer. I think we all kind of like think of public schools versus private schools, and you go, yeah, you're expected to get a better education in private schools. But now people are saying, well, some public schools are only going a couple days a week, whereas the private schools will go 5 days a week. That alone is important to the parents so they can work, make sure their children are getting the education that they're paying for. But then also they want to feel like their children are actually safe, and they're feeling much more safe and more comfortable sending their kids to private schools than they are public schools. And
it's more than just safety. It's also what kind of education are they getting? What kind of instruction is taking place? And I think that authorities pretty much universally agree that online learning is a poor substitute for in-person. Now, I think what happened here throughout August, when all of a sudden public school, teachers' unions suddenly started beating the drum that school is not a safe place for their union members, I think that propelled the typically spineless school administrations to cave to the teachers once again and to say, oh, yeah, well, we'll just do distance learning, or we'll do some kind of hybrid thing, which is awful or 60% awful, depending on which way you look at it. So I think people got fed up, and I think they said, something, that's it. I'm done with kids coming home and telling me Black Lives Matter, is the way to go, and that America's a racist, horrible country, that our whole history is based on racism, which is a lie promulgated by a left-wing hack at the New York Times who came up with the 1619 Project, which is now being taught in all public schools, or most of them. They're tired of it. And they got sick and tired of it, and they said, I'm going to enroll in schools where I have some say as to what is being taught to the kids. And so Catholic schools are signing up kids left and right. Another good option in Rochester's Archangel School out in Gates. Yeah. And then also we have these pods too. Andrew, you may be aware of those. Those instruction pods.
No, that's not familiar to me. I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, basically what happens is it's kind of like an ad hoc arrangement whereby a group of parents will get together and they will actually hire a teacher or teachers.
Oh,
and they will,
yeah.
They will,
I think I have heard of this.
Yeah, it's kind of like semi-mass homeschooling.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I look at this situation, and this is obviously like very specifically because of how government has failed. Government has failed in education. Government has failed in the response to COVID. There's just been so many issues here. And now people are starting to turn to the market. And they're saying, you know what? There are better options out there than government. And there always have been. But now people are finally at that point where they're like, you know what? Yeah, it's worth it. I just can't put up with this anymore. I need a better option. And they're switching to like those pods, like you said, which I think is a great like open free market like idea that a community could pool their resources together and create an education system of their own, independent of the government, that they think is best for their children. I think that's like an amazing thing. That's like a brilliant idea. Homeschool families have done it before between church groups and other like homeschool groups. So I'm like really excited to hear about that this is happening. And I hope it happens with more communities. I hope more communities come together and say, we know better than the government. We know better about our child's education than the government. Why would we trust somebody hundreds of miles away to dictate what my child is going to learn when I could find a teacher that teaches in the way that I know my child learns about the topics that I believe are important for my child and pay them directly instead of doing this goofy roundabout thing where the government takes my tax money, redistributes it to like a bunch of their buddies and a bunch of their appointed friends' positions, and then like leaves some money for the educational budget and put them in a school district with an education system that maybe I'm fundamentally opposed to.
Well, and this is a very timely topic right now because this is a time of year, ladies and gentlemen, which I know you're painfully aware of, when we all write checks for our school taxes. And we know that public education is stupendously and unnecessarily expensive. We look at these Taj Mahal schools that kids are going to. We look at, which is fine, but I mean, you have to draw the line somewhere. And if you ever look at line item spending with your school budget, I absolutely promise you, you will be horrified and astonished at what money is being spent on and how much. So there's that going on. But what we're talking about here, Andrew, is we're talking to a return to a historic and quintessentially American educational model, which is going back to 120, 130 years ago when we had the one-room schools. And people in a community would hire a teacher to teach the kids. And this teacher would reflect their values, wouldn't do anything wacky like what's been going on in Spencerport and what we hear about in city schools. They would not be permitted to lie to the kids because the parents are keeping close tabs on what is being taught and the character of the person who is doing the teaching. See, we're completely removed from the process now by bureaucratic school boards with political agendas and by these highly indoctrinated, politicized people like Stephen Lysenko. I don't think he should be teaching anybody. That's my opinion.
And I think that you hit the nail on the head where like essentially we're a customer of this system, but we have no say in the product that we're receiving.
No, that's not what their attitude is. They don't treat us like customers.
Yeah, no, they don't, because they know that they're going to have our money anyways. But like what we actually are, we're just terribly mistreated customers, and we don't even get to order or choose the product. We're forced to buy this product, and then we're forced to receive this product. And our only way to not have that product is to spend more of our money to seek a better alternative elsewhere,
Yeah,
whether that's homeschool or private school.
Yeah, you guys need to go out there, if you'll pardon my saying this, you need to go pack the school board meetings. And you need to make your feelings known. And starting with Spencerport, I mean, you guys need to put the fear of God into that school board. If what's going on is what I'm hearing what's going on out there, that needs to stop. And you guys are the people who can make it stop.
Yeah, people need to have a say in their child's education. They need to be able to make these sort of decisions. It's why I advocate for homeschool so much. Homeschool has definitely got like a near and dear place in my heart, and to give parents the ability to have a say in their children's education, I think is just one of the most important things that any family could have in today's society. It's just so important. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow.